Hello, Tungsten Miner here. As I said before, I kept working on this tower piece over here, trying to figure it out. A little more challenging because it's round and you can't quite use the same tricks I was using before. But what I wound up doing is using microblocks to get kind of all the center pieces or all the edge pieces worked out. So let's see if I can get in here. All right. What I wound up trying to do is to follow the edge of the room. So I was always working with my green schist like along the side here as I went around. And then I wound up adding an extra column to be able to round the edges just a little bit more. And in order to do that, I used pillars on the sides here to make those. So that what I wound up with is a wall that follows neatly the inner contour of the entire room here, while still keeping it fairly round. So from the outside, it looks more or less like a rounded tower on the edge of the house. And keeping with my pattern of having windows that are 3 by 3 or 1 by 3, I took the windows here that are on the kind of shorter walls and made them 1 by 3 standing up, and the rest of the windows 3 by 3 on the main surfaces. And then have the supporting kind of structure of the wall from these pillars that go in the corners there. So overall, I like how that is coming along. That's going to be a good pattern, I think. And from here, I'll just need to carry on and follow this pattern all the way up through the rest of the structure. I may choose to do something different on the topmost layer because it's the topmost layer and because it stands alone. You can see over here, this is how the roof is going to look for the rest of this part of the building here. And when you walk out on the roof, I'll probably have like a door that you can just get into this topmost room of the tower here. I wound up not working on this yet, so I'm going to go off and do some thinking about how this might work, and I'll be back with you in a few moments. So I've been working away on this side of the building here, and I want to get all the windows in, all the walls in, get the roof in, and one of the things I've decided to do is not worry about the insides quite yet, just lay out some basic structure here. But what I do want to do is get the roof on in its entirety, because one of the things I want to do is try to go for Forestry's biofuel as the way to power this place. And I want it to be self-sufficient, which means I need some crops and whatnot growing at the top. And with all that going on, I'm going to need to be able to have the roof finished to figure out what dimensions and things I've got going on, and just play around with stuff a bit. So I want to get this roof filled in, but that's a lot of brick to lay all on my own. So I've decided to use the filler for its actual purpose of filling. So I've laid out my landmarks. I can click and see. Sure enough, I've got the entire roof area defined now. And unlike what I was doing before, this is a two-dimensional area. So I don't have 4 landmarks. I just have 3. One in the corner here, one over there, and one over there. And now I'm going to take my filler and put it just underneath that landmark, which is going to drop all my landmarks, and it's going to turn my guidelines black and yellow, so I know that everything is set up properly. Now, I need to provide power, which I've got right here. And now it's in the fill mode automatically when I drop it in there, so all I have to do is pop in some rhyolite. And off it goes. But, of course, I kind of knew I didn't have enough rhyolite, so I'm going to have to go fetch some more from my storage and maybe even go mine some more if I've used it all up. But I thought it would be interesting to show how the filler actually fills when you've got it in the right settings. So I'm going to go off and get some more rhyolite, and all I have to do to keep it filling is just put more in here. So I'm going to go get some, throw it in there. If that's not enough, I'll get some more and throw it in there until finally it's filled in the whole rest of this area. And then I'm going to go and do the same thing all the way down to the end there. So I'll have this whole wing of the building filled in. And I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, machine's finished, and as you can see, I've now got a roof on this thing. But if I turn off my night vision, you can see a little problem here. This thing's going to be crawling with monsters as soon as I step far enough away for them to spawn. So, of course, I'll have proper ways of dealing with that. Nice lighting and powered lanterns and all that kind of stuff eventually. But while I'm in the construction stages, this is going to be a problem. So what I'm going to do is use the NEI features, maybe not so well known, of pressing F7, and that's going to show me all of these crosses on all of the blocks around me. Now the yellow ones are places where at nighttime it gets dark enough that monsters can spawn, but during the daytime it's fine. All of the red squares are places where even during the daytime there's not enough light to prevent monsters spawning. So if you get too far away, you get monsters. So what I'm going to do is I've got a bunch of torches here, and I'm just going to go and walk along and plant a torch every so often, just close enough together where during the daytime anyway, I don't have to worry too much about monsters spawning. And I don't need to be super specific about this, so I'm just going to go and plop them down kind of wherever, following a nice straight line so that I can make life a little easier and knowing where to put them. But I'm not too concerned about where exactly they're going because I'm going to pick them all up again eventually anyhow. And really the thing that's most important is to get rid of all those red boxes, which now you can see I've gotten rid of all of them. So I'm going to put down one more line just for good measure and call it good so that I don't have to worry about them showing up even during the daytime. Of course, I'm surrounded by yellow squares so far as nighttime is concerned. I mean, as far as the eye can see, right? So I'm not too worried about nighttime because I've got my sleeping bag and I'll sleep and whatnot when I need to. But if I've got red squares, that's going to be a problem all the time. Even as I step away from one end of the building to the other, that will be far enough away to allow the mobs to spawn. So yeah, nice little trick to use NEI's lighting map to show you where exactly you've got problems in your build. So I'm going to take my filler here and turn things around and set up my landmarks to fill in the rest of the roof down the rest of this side. Okay, so as I was getting myself set up to put in the rest of the roof here, I walked down to this end to put in the other landmark, and I noticed this problem. All of these windows, all the way down, this whole side of the building, are 5 meters long with 3-meter gaps in between. Just because in that first room, that's how the spacing worked out the best. And as I get down here, it would work out just the same, except it's 2 meters too long. Now, I don't have to make the building the extra 2 meters, right? I mean, there's no particular reason that has to be that way, and the only reason it's as long as it is right now is because I just so happened to have a little plateau that was that big. And in fact, as you can see, I had to extend that plateau a little bit. So as I'm going along, I'm looking at things like that. So trying to look at this symmetry of the building and the consistency of the measurements of various parts of it, and trying to make things have a pleasing aesthetic aspect, as well as a well laid out floor plan and a well thought through design for what's going to go where and which parts are going to get used for what sorts of tasks and pieces. And yeah, this room just doesn't need to be that extra 2 meters long, and so I'm going to shorten it up. And maybe what I'll do is carve off a little bit of this hillside so it doesn't look quite so smoothly regular, make it blend in a little bit more with what's going on elsewhere. And as you're building your constructions too, I encourage you to adapt your plans as you're going along, because things don't always start out and work exactly as you thought, and it's very good to be able to come back and make changes and to think things through again. I might have the same problem over here, and I kind of wish I had thought about that a little bit earlier, because I haven't counted out exactly how long this is, and it may well be the case that I could get these nice 3x3 windows all the way down the wall and find that I'm a block short or a block too long in the center here. And I might need to go back and carve off the edge of this wall and do things over again. So the lesson for me and the lesson for you is start in the middle and work your way outwards so that you're pretty sure that things are going to be able to line up and you can adjust the outer edges a lot more easily than the inner edges. Or just find some clever way to deal with the problem. So for example, in this front room here, we can see the windows are 6 meters wide in this center space. And would it be nicer if they were 1 meter wider? Yeah, a bit, but I'd have to shift over quite a lot of stuff that I've already built at this point, and I kind of decided I'd rather not do that. So I just deal with having a broader window in the middle here, even though that doesn't quite fit the pattern. But you know what? That's all right. It still looks pretty good. I'm happy with the results, and don't need to be perfectly in the plan for absolutely every single thing. Sometimes it's the irregularities and the oddities of the shape of the building that makes it look the best. So I'm going to get back to putting in the rest of that roof and filling out the rest of the lower wing, and be back with you in a moment. Okay, so I had my filler filling in the roof, and I ran out of cobbled rhyolite again. And I went back to my other house and found that I didn't have any more cobbled rhyolite there either. But what I did have was plenty of regular rhyolite, because now my pickaxe and my hammer both have silk touch, so I get smooth stone of whatever kind. But I want the cobblestone because that's what I'm using for the roof, and I kind of like that pattern. So what I'm going to do is turn this this double stack, because this is 8x8, so 2 stacks worth of rhyolite into cobbled rhyolite so that I can use it in the rest of this building. And the way that's going to work is I've already set up my landmarks and put down my filler, just like I've done a bunch of times. And I've changed it to the clear setting. And before I did that, I turned on the do not excavate so that I could do that part with you watching. So as soon as I turn that off, it's now going to bust up this rhyolite. Except when it busts it up, it breaks it into cobblestone because the filler does not have silk touch. And here we go. I have, in just a second or two, converted 2 stacks of smooth rhyolite into 2 stacks of cobbled rhyolite. 1, 2. So filler is handy for a whole multitude of different sorts of things. So there's little enough left where I'll probably just fill in the rest of that by hand. But I get a ton of use out of this BuildCraft Filler in just about every build that I do. So here's another little small adjustment as I'm going through working on this. This is where the wall originally was going to come in, because this is where that 45-degree angle to the other wall connected. And of course, this is the one that goes across to the wall where the front of the building is. So just the geometry of the situation, you can see what I'm talking about there. So that wall extends to here, and then at a nice 45-degree angle, that extends over to there, and that produces this wall across to here. But looking at how the windows are turning out, it doesn't make any sense to have a wall right in the middle of a bank of windows. It'd make a lot more sense to have the wall, say, over there. So I'd have a smallish room here that's just 1 bank of windows wide, next to a longer room, but a narrower one, that's 1 bank of windows wide over here. And then down at the end, I'm going to have a room that's 2 banks of windows wide on this side. And these, as you can see, are not 5 wide, but 4 because, well, there just wasn't enough room. And looking at what I'd have to do to shift things over, it doesn't make much sense to do that. So I'd rather have these be somewhat shorter on this side rather than have to mess with things. And what might actually wind up happening is I might want a door over here. So I might shorten them further and make room for a door to get out on this side. Again, another example of how as you're building things, if you're doing yourself some favors and trying to build in a way that leaves you some options, you can still fill things in differently or shift things around as you're doing your build. So I'm going to get back to it and talk to you in a minute. Alright, as I've been working here, I used the filler to carve out the kind of subfloor area on this whole wing. Now, I don't intend to make a big room or do a lot of stuff with the spaces underneath the rooms here, but I do know that I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff that may potentially be having a lot of piping and a lot of crossing pipes that go over one another, and they tend to require about 2 meters to cross over and go around each other when you have to reorganize the flow of things. So I'm just making sure to give myself enough room underneath all of the rooms to do that. So what I've been doing here is using microblock slabs to make the flooring, and that leaves 2 meters and a half or so, which feels like a normal sized, maybe smallish room. And then for the doorways, I use a half slab and a half slab of each kind so that the patterns both look right underneath and up above. And then I'm going to continue filling in this part here for the whole last part of the room. You can see what I was talking about last time. I've taken care of moving that section along and just making steady progress on getting the rest of this filled in. Now, a lot of the floor area down here was all sorts of different kind of stone and dirt and things mixed together, so I've been using a lot of this red granite that I've collected to fill in the walls, to fill in the floors, and give myself a consistent look down on the basement level here, so that everything looks like it's kind of a poured foundation, I guess, to compare to what a regular building might have. And at the same time, I've been making sure to, well, I was just going to say keep things lit, but obviously not well enough. So I'll have to go back and place some more torches down to keep the mobs away while I'm working. Anyway, so carry on. Okay, so I have now got all of the exterior wall built, all of the interior floors built, and all of the basement area built for this this part of the wing here. And what I've done underneath here is to just have some small doorways, put down enough torches to keep the mobs from spawning, and over here in the name of realism, I've kind of noticed this room is actually quite wide. It's 11 meters across, which is a bit longer than just a half a meter of wood planking probably ought to be able to span. So I went ahead and just added a bit of a joist through the middle of the room, just so that it looks like it has some reason to be able to stand up. Well, of course, in Minecraft things will stand up even the most ludicrous kind of structures, including dirt I-beams. But in my final structures, I like to have some kind of sensibility to them. And so I'll go ahead and put in little details like that, even in places that aren't going to get much traffic. Finally, I've got the entire roof in. I've got the entire edging around the roof in. And in addition to the diorite block on the bottom, I went ahead and put in a diorite slab so that when you're at the top, this is a whole meter, so that I'll be able to put things on top of it here. So for example, if I want to put down a farm of some kind, I'll be able to put dirt blocks here and make a farm out of it. And then I'll also be able to have a little bit of a border, a little bit of edge or something with this slab that's sticking up a bit. So I'll need to figure out how to keep mobs from spawning up here. Maybe that winds up being a powered lantern or something like it, but maybe something else. I can see now too how this is going to work connecting to this other part of the building. That here is going to be the level of this second floor of this building, and obviously I've got a couple of steps down to get to here. So wherever it is I wind up making the door, I'm probably going to need to do something like that to make a little bit of a stair to get up to that level and come back down again to the roof level. I did a little bit of research too into producing biofuel So it's actually called ethanol. So ethanol is produced either in a refinery or in a still, and then you get 3 millibuckets for 10 millibuckets of biomass. The recipe for biomass is to take some kind of plant life, and as we can see, there are many, many, many choices of how to do that exactly, along with either mulch or fertilizer or compost. But the trouble is that fertilizer requires apatite, mineral, and what's the other one here? Compost requires dirt, which obviously is not something you can just mass produce. So that kind of leaves mulch as the only option for a way to produce biomass that is renewable. And there's a lot of different ways you can produce mulch, which have a different chance of producing it. So if you're using beech nuts, you get a 4% chance and you make seed oil. But I don't actually want seed oil, I want fruit juice. So I did a little bit of peeking around and going through NEI and looking at all the different options here. And it turns out the cherry plum has a 60% chance of producing mulch and produces 100 millibuckets of fruit juice. And then you can use the fruit juice to run it through a fermenter with pretty much any kind of crop plant. And so I'll just find something, wheat or whatever, that's easy to grow. Combine that with the mulch and the fruit juice that I get from putting my cherry plums through my fermenter, or for my squeezer. And that's going to produce the biomass that I need to then put into my still and produce ethanol. And then I can use the ethanol. Yeah, it's not going to show me the engines, but you can pour this into the various kinds of combustion engines to produce power. So I need to get myself some cherry plums, I need to get myself some wheat, and I need to be able to grow that stuff in an automated way. And I've got all of this space up here to do that in. I'm thinking I will also use BuildCraft robots to do a lot of the growing and harvesting, and have them do a lot of the automation too. So I think I'm going to end this video here, and next time I will carry on with constructing more of the house and doing a little bit more homework on the raw materials I'm going to need to produce some of that biomass and eventually ethanol so that I can power the place. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos like this one, and I will talk to you later.